It is a Monday edition of SportsCenter. I'm at Barry Palm Beach Gardens, TGL, underway, 2 matches in. And would you look at this? Matt and Christine back together again on SportsCenter. Trinidad Chambliss, Ole Miss quarterback, going to join us in just a bit. Hey, Christine, anything new happen with you lately? Everything good? I haven't been following.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. How about that? We have so much to get to, as you mentioned, but today is one of the busiest days in the NFL. So let's get right into it as we welcome in Herm Edwards. So a lot of coach firings today that we got as breaking news earlier this morning. What is your reaction to everything that's come down the line?
It's not surprising. I mean, you can anticipate probably 5 every year, and there's always one that's a head scratcher. You wonder why, but this is the life of a coach in the NFL.
Which one would you say is the biggest head scratcher?
Probably in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Because of the change of, how I should say, the quarterback situation there, right? I mean, you draft 5 quarterbacks, there's a problem.
Right.
And maybe the GM sided with one quarterback and the head coach maybe sided with another quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but those are some of the things that are coming out of Cleveland. So,
yeah.
But here again, when you've been in the league as long as I've had been in this league, in the National Football League, as a player and a coach, nothing surprises you.
Yeah.
For me personally, because you just see it. You go, interesting.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? There's a reason. You know, when you replace somebody else, generally they got fired.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And don't think it won't happen to you, because it will.
Yeah.
That's the league.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about the Browns, and let's stay with Kevin Stefanski, because you mentioned the issue with the quarterbacks in the Browns. He's kind of been dealt a tough hand with the quarterbacks that he's been given. He was the NFL Coach of the Year, 2 seasons ago?
Yeah.
So where do you think that he has a job waiting for him?
Oh, I would assume he would. If not, somebody will hire him as a coordinator, and then eventually he'll get another job.
But he should be a head coach in this league.
Yeah, I mean, he did a good job there. I mean, you look at that situation. I mean, it's very difficult. Here's some of the longer tenure guys. I mean, I can remember when Andy Reid got fired. Right.
Right.
I mean, so you sit there. There's some coaches on that list. All those coaches are outstanding football coaches. If they were let go, let's say, they would get another bite of the apple. They'd get another opportunity to be a coach. Mm-hmm. You know, I was in a unique situation. Not only was I let go, but I was traded.
Yeah.
You know, I was one of the head coaches in the NFL traded. Not many coaches ever get traded. I was actually traded. So you just live with it. That's the life you live.
Okay, I want to ask you about Pete Carroll out with the Raiders. Obviously, he also just had a very tough season out there. What are your reactions to him?
My reaction was, when they hired Pete, how long did they think this was going to go?
Yeah.
You know, Pete has been in the league a long time. Excellent coach. Did a great job in Seattle. 73 years old. I'm not saying you can't coach at that age, but when you hire a coach like that, is there a bridge coach that's going to eventually take his spot? Mm-hmm. And Tom Brady's involved in this now. The Raider organization is the Raider organization. Yeah. And so now, you know, they're looking for a coach. But it didn't look right when they hired Pete Carroll.
Right.
Is he just a bridge Is he a bridge coach?
Yeah.
He's not there for the next 10 years.
Right. He couldn't be. He's the oldest coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
So,
and not saying you can't coach at that age, because you can't.
Right. Of course. But 10 years would be a little crazy.
A long time.
Said he couldn't have been. All right, Matt, what do you have?
Yeah, look, aside from the coaching news, there was some big football stuff happening yesterday, notably last night after being under some fire. Mike Tomlin of the Steelers back on top of the AFC North thanks to Tyler Loop's potential game-winning field goal wide right. It's Pittsburgh's first division title since 2020, ending their longest drought since the AFC North was created back in 2002. And Loop's missed kick kicks off a whole host of questions across the league, starting in Baltimore with John Harbaugh's futures. We bring in our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. Graz, this is something worth monitoring because of all the movement around the league last night and today. What is the latest with Harbaugh and Baltimore?
Well, Matt, when it comes to a situation like John Harbaugh in Baltimore, he's been there so long and had so much success there. This isn't the kind of situation where the owner wakes up the day after the season ends and says, you know, he's fired, we're going to move on. If, in fact, John Harbaugh is not going to be the coach of the Ravens anymore, that's going to come at the end of some pretty long discussions within the organization, and discussions that likely will involve John Harbaugh. At this point, we don't have reason to believe the Ravens are considering moving on from John Harbaugh, or that he's considering moving on from them. But they've come to the end of an extremely disappointing season. There's been enough noise and chatter around this and around the uncertainty with Lamar Jackson and his future contract situation that we're watching it. I think still the likelihood is that John Harbaugh is back next year. But the situation, Matt, that everyone will compare these to is Andy Reid at the end in Philadelphia when it just got to the point where obviously Andy's still a good coach, but maybe it's time to move on. I'm not saying that's the case with John Harbaugh. If and when that time comes for him and the Ravens, I think it's more than just a one-day turnaround from the final game of the season.
It's a good comparison, though, too, because you see what Andy Reid did after he couldn't get over the hump in Philadelphia. Goes on and wins Super Bowls with the dynasty in the Kansas City Chiefs. The juxtaposition of last night's game was interesting to the Ravens and Steelers, just for the fact that not only a month ago, fans were chanting, "Fire Mike Tomlin." We were on SportsCenter talking about players sticking up for their coach. They go on this run, but they haven't won a postseason game since 2016. So going into the playoffs, winning the division, how important is this upcoming playoff game for Tomlin and the Steelers?
I can say a lot of the same things about the Steelers as I did about the Ravens. These are two very circumspect organizations. These are organizations that do not do knee-jerk change, that don't necessarily just respond to fan discontent by saying, okay, yeah, we'll give you what you want. Mike Tomlin's been the coach of the Steelers for a very long time, had a lot of success. Echo everything I just said about John Harbaugh. If and when that time comes, it probably is a result of the Steelers and Mike Tomlin agreeing that, hey, it's time to try something new. I don't know that happens this year. The issue with Tomlin, though, that's different from Harbaugh is the contract situation. He's only going to have 1 year left on his contract after this. They have a deadline this spring to pick up an option for 2027. So do they pick that option up? Do they give him an extension? Do they make him go into the final year of his contract and play it out? If that's the case, then I think the noise gets a little louder in terms of what they want to do. But I promise you, Matt, the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin are not thinking about that right now. They're thinking about trying to beat the Houston Texans a week from tonight in the playoff game. That's just how the Steelers operate. Once this season ends, whenever that is, that'll be the time for those conversations.
Yeah, kind of an interesting day in that division in that there was a coach that was let go, and then there's some coaches like, well, what's going to happen? And then there's a team that came out and said, hey, we're keeping our guys. So certainly a busy day in that division and a busy day for Dan Graziano and all of our NFL insiders.
All right, let's welcome in NFL insider Adam Schefter to talk about these coaches' firings. All right, so we've had a number of coaches notified about their futures. Walk us through the latest news today.
Well, Christine, we'll start in Arizona with Jonathan Gannon. The Cardinals have fired Jonathan Gannon after 6 seasons there, or 3 seasons there, as Arizona's head coach. They've lost 8 games down the stretch. The defense struggled, and they made the decision, to the surprise of some, to move on from him and to have their general manager, Monty Ossenfort, lead the search for a new head coach. So they are now in that head coaching pool looking to see who they can find, and we'll see what they wind up doing. Meanwhile, the Las Vegas Raiders fired Pete Carroll today. One and done in Vegas with Pete Carroll. Situation where this team finished with the worst record in football. They have the #1 overall draft pick. They decided to make a change, and their general manager, John Spytek, and Tom Brady will lead the search to find the new head coach for the Raiders. They've had any number of coaches in recent years, now in the market to hire another head coach. One team not in the market for a head coach is the Cincinnati Bengals. They announced earlier today that they are keeping Zach Taylor along with their director of player personnel, Duke Tobin, so they are running it back essentially with their head coach and the man that makes the personnel decisions there in Cincinnati. Zach Taylor had the support of Joe Burrow, the quarterback. He had the support of wide receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and he's got the support of ownership as well. Zach Taylor is back for 2026. However, Kevin Stefanski in the AFC North not back. Fired this morning. The Browns general manager Andrew Berry will lead the search for a new head coach for Cleveland. And Kevin Stefanski automatically will become one of the hotter and most sought-after candidates in this hiring cycle. He is expected to get head coaching interviews elsewhere. Would not be a surprise to see him interviewed in Tennessee, in New York, where the Giants have an opening, and we'll see other places that have openings. But Stefanski will be somebody who does get interviews in this cycle, and we'll see if he decides to accept one of these jobs.
Yeah, I just mentioned it to Herm Edwards. That firing comes 2 seasons after he won the NFL Coach of the Year award, his second one that he got. All right, Adam, stand by with Matt.
Yeah, it's always the day after the regular season finale. We now know the NFL draft order coming up for the upcoming NFL draft. And usually if you're on this list, you're also going to be searching for a coach. Raiders top overall pick, we know they are looking for the coach. Cardinals, Titans, Giants, and the Browns. So you look at 3, 4, 5, 6, all need coaches. The one that's still there, the Jets at number 2 at 3-14, and Aaron Glenn's first season, Schefter, as head coach of the New York Jets. Certainly not what they anticipated when they brought him in. What's the latest with Glenn and his future in New York?
Well, Matt, they're determined not to make a change, despite the fact that the Jets were outscored in the month of December by 107 points, the most points essentially, or the widest margin of point differential that any NFL team ever has had in the month of December, despite the fact that the New York Jets became the first team since the stat began being tracked in 1933, almost 100 years ago, not to have an interception, not one, all season long. They are keeping Aaron Glenn. They are standing behind him. They are not making a change. And while we've seen 6 teams make head coaching changes, the New York Jets are not one of them and are not planning to make any changes. They're planning on running it back with Aaron Glenn. They have the second pick in the draft. They believe they're turning around the culture. They'll turn around the program. They'll get the organization back on the right track after a dismal season here in the New York area, but they are not going to move off of Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, look, second overall pick, you would think maybe they're going to get a quarterback. Maybe at that point it's Dante Moore out of Oregon. We know Fernando Mendoza is going to be coveted probably by the Raiders. So there's a lot to work on between now and the offseason, as well as Adam Schefter. He'll be busy all day.